Welcome, everybody, to our live webinar. It's September 6, 2023. I'm your pal, Debbie Levitt from Delta CX. I'll introduce myself in a moment. This will end up on our YouTube channel as episode 199, How Metrics Influence Product Strategy. Obviously, since this webinar is about a half hour today, we are not going to cover everything about metrics or everything about product strategy, but hopefully I'll give you some starter food for thought and be able to take your questions as well. I have a bunch of slides prepared. Please remember that this is being recorded, so if you don't want your face on our YouTube channel, please keep your video off. We don't need that. Thanks, as always, to our Patreon members, which is just growing, and it's fun to see. For as little as $1 a month, you can get early access to a lot of our stuff. For example, after this video is done, it will go to paid patron members for about 2 weeks, and then over to YouTube. We do have a free level, which is like being on my mailing list. You can join that as well. Or instead, hypothetically. All right. And of course, don't forget our other webinars coming up. Am I pointing at the right place? Yes. cxcc.to/events. You can add our entire calendar to yours, or you can RSVP one at a time. So as we go, please feel free to put comments in the chat. I'm going to go through my slides, and I will try to keep an eye on the chat in case people have a question for which I should interrupt what I'm saying and respond to it. If it's not a super on fire question, I might wait until the end of my slides. I've made how many slides, just to give you a heads up? 14. So short deck for me, if you know me. And if you don't, let me tell you about me. Hi, I'm Debbie Levitt. I've been working in strategy, CX, and UX for decades. Delta CX is my company. We're a full-service consultancy that's all about creating change. The Delta. Has your company or team struggled with customer adoption, satisfaction, or retention? How about balancing business goals with what customers really need? Are you more focused on deadlines than continuously delivering 5-star quality and value to users? We are product, service, and business strategists. We're researchers, designers, innovators, and change agents. We find and solve problems, especially problems you don't even know you have or know how to solve. So check us out at customer-centricity.com. You can always book some time to speak with me. And that's why clients call me Mary Poppins. I fly in, fix everything I can, sing a few songs, and fly away to where I'm needed next. Note that in general, I tend to say CX and UX interchangeably. I think that the customer experience and the user experience can be the same thing when we are doing both well. So let's make sure we care about all of these experiences of the people in our ecosystem. And I don't want to die on the hill of who's a customer, who's a user, who's a human. Whoever does business with us, I'm just going to call them a customer for short. So, do our products, services, and experiences deserve a score of 5 stars out of 5? If that were the key metric we looked for, then we would make sure every release or new service was designed to be 5 stars. But we don't. We often put business metrics first, like conversion rates, how often people buy, how much they buy, how long they stay with us, etc. These aren't bad things to measure, but we need to discuss how metrics affect our product strategy and ways of working. Just to make sure everybody's familiar with terms, what's a KPI? A KPI is a key performance indicator. It's usually a quant metric, so a number that we can measure and watch over time. It tells us if we are accomplishing a key company or product goal. A KPI is often based on a company strategy, but then it will affect product strategy, decisions, and team behavior. The next 2 slides will give you some examples. And you'll also hear metrics often referred to as leading or lagging. A leading metric is an early metric. It's often a sign of something that is likely or unlikely to happen in the future, but it's really just a sign of that. An example of a leading metric is bounce rate. If many people are leaving our site nearly immediately, we will probably see that reflected later in lower revenue. A lagging metric looks back at things that have already happened. Examples include profit, customer lifetime value, and what we spent this year on innovating. Lagging indicators are great, but look for leading indicators as much as possible. If we want to be smarter and more strategic, we want to look for early hints that we are failing or succeeding. We also want to look for hints that our target audiences are failing or succeeding. And here's a couple of slides that some of you have seen before, but some of you haven't. So here they are. What happens when our KPI doesn't measure customer success or possibly pushes us to create a product strategy that works against customer success? For an example, let's imagine a dating site. Let's pretend we work for a dating website and we want to figure out some good ways to measure success, whatever that means to us. Could it be how many people liked you, if you're on there looking for dates, how often the site notifies you about new members nearby, or how about how many people view your profile? These are nice, and we can measure all of these, but they're not really a measure of customer success or business success. What about more time in our dating ecosystem? That's nice, maybe, but it's not really a measure of customer or business success. More time might mean people are having trouble finding a good match. If they're having trouble finding a good match, they might give up on our site and we lose that customer and their revenue. What about the number of profile matches the dating site sends someone? If we measured success by the number of profiles the system suggested, we might build features that send you as many humans as possible each week, regardless of the quality of those matches. While some people are into quantity on a dating website, many people are looking for quality. But if quantity were our KPI, our teams might cook up features like ignoring your search filters, suggesting matches that are very far away, or suggesting people with very different views and lifestyles. You could see a rise in metrics, but is it the right rise? So let's take a look at some examples where a key KPI is reflected in our strategies and our actions as we drive everything in product. Excuse me, I think I've been losing my voice for a month. Product, CX, and engineering towards making those numbers look good. So again, how do our KPIs end up influencing our strategies and action and sometimes direct the way our teams behave? So we were just talking a little bit about a dating website, which might focus on the number of profiles that we claim are matches, but that could lead to some teams making choices that I like to say are customer peripheric, the opposite of customer-centric. Customers are out here in the periphery. And I've got an interesting story related to this. I met my husband on OkCupid. He lived in Italy and asked OkCupid for matches within, I think, a 200-kilometer radius. I lived in San Francisco and I asked OkCupid for anybody in North America. We think a glitch showed him my profile. He looked, decided I was too far away, and didn't write to me. At the time, OkCupid had a list you could look at of people who saw your profile and then didn't take action. I was checking that list at the time in case it had a good match that was shy. And I hit the life and love jackpot. Someone set off the heart emojis. But OkCupid, within a few months of that, announced that they were going to remove that page because if anybody saw your profile and didn't contact you, they're obviously not interested and just a waste of time. This made me wonder what KPI they were trying to meet that this worked against. And it makes me wonder how many people missed out on meeting a shy but perfect person. If a company has page views as a KPI, this could result in teams building processes and workflows that happen across multiple pages. If you have my book, Customers Know You Suck, and you read it, you probably saw the example of a website where I was trying to log in and I had to load literally 6 pages to log in. That seems like a company driven by page views or maybe time on the site, which we'll talk about in a moment. So rather than building more efficient processes that happen on one page or just more simply and efficiently, you get dragged across multiple pages because, hey, KPI, page views. You might also see this again, as I mentioned, in slow motion, dragged out processes because we might think more time on our pages or more time on our site or in the session is a great number that we want to see increase. Maybe if pages load slowly, we're okay with that because then people are on our site for an even longer time. The exception here is typically sites that, or apps or systems that are related to entertainment where we don't mind killing time. We're not trying to be efficient. Now, if we think about Facebook for a moment, Facebook, they're usually examples of not good things. We might imagine that Facebook is shooting for active users, as many active users as possible per month, because that is their KPI. And they've also announced that's their North Star metric. So if that is what guides your company the most, then maybe your system welcomes fake accounts. Maybe it's cool with bots. After all, we want those numbers of users to look big and growing. We might then see teams deliberately making it hard to delete or cancel Facebook because that would hurt our number of active users. I remember when I canceled years ago, they told me my profile would be active for 2 weeks. This means people are liking and commenting and messaging you, which is all designed to make you feel like you're missing out and you designed to stay. And it's also bad for that profile to stay up if your safety has been threatened and you need to close your account immediately. But these are examples of when KPIs or metrics can drive our teams to create customer experiences that might be customer peripheral. So it's important to track how your KPIs and OKRs will manifest in team behavior and the product. Savvy users like you and me can reverse engineer what a company or product strategy is based on our experiences. We can tell, right? Emojis up. Which means your customers might have a clue about your strategies and whether all of your talk about honesty, empathy, or care is real. As I give you each example, think about which KPIs this might be chasing. Canceling seems impossible. This sucks. Likely KPI, retention rate, loyalty. They want to see more people stay. They make it hard to go. I had to see 6 separate pages just to log in. This sucks. Likely KPI, page views, time on site, session time. I couldn't get anywhere without giving them my email address or creating an account. Likely KPI, leads, mailing list signups, opt-in or forced in, maybe number of new customers if they consider somebody signing up a new customer. I accomplished my task efficiently without pop-ups or crap I didn't want. Likely KPI, time on task, customer satisfaction scores. Notice how different some of these are. But remember that chasing some of these KPIs can work against other KPIs. For example, if someone wants to cancel, but we made it nearly impossible, what will they do? Contact customer support. And if they bother filling out our survey at some point, they will give us very low scores. So the call volume and the time it takes to help people could hurt customer support's KPIs. What about marketing's KPIs? They added more people to the mailing list, but they have a huge number of unsubscribes, spam reports, and unopened emails. That's not a marketing success. And if we force or trick people into our sales funnel or pipeline, that could mean a lot of time and effort wasted as salespeople try to sell to people who never intended to be leads. Therefore, when we consider product and service strategies, we should look beyond the short term of how we hope to impress leaders and execs above us. Check for customer success KPIs and also check you're not doing harm or dumping your problems off on another department or team. Which looks like this. We do selfishly dump our problems on other departments. A typical image of a funnel includes steps like awareness, discovery, evaluation, intent, and then the purchase. I'm summing those up into attraction, lead, and conversion. Some funnel diagrams show a sixth step of loyalty or delivering the products and services you sold. I'm showing that going from small to big because we probably promised a lot and will need to meet or exceed those expectations. But the unspoken last part of the funnel is how much we rely on customer support and call centers to clean up our messes. We give ourselves permission to be customer peripheric because we know support will clean up our mess. They'll teach people how to use something that's awful and not intuitive. They'll apologize for us. They'll give you a discount to stay. They'll even lie for us and tell customers, we're working on the problem. We can push our problems to later in the funnel or customer relationship, but that doesn't make those problems go away. These are still things we need to deal with or fix later. And when customers leave this late in the relationship, we lament that they weren't loyal. We worry about customer support. Maybe they're not picking up the phone fast enough. Hey, it's not them. The problem is our products and services. We should have metrics around customer support utilization related to our features. By the way, if you're putting questions in the Q&A, thank you. Please do. I've got a few more slides to go through, and then I'll be happy to take questions for as long as they take. So I wrote an article some time ago. You can find it on Medium. It's called "Your CX and UX Metrics Are Myopic." And I looked at the danger of measuring for short-term wins, as we often see in A/B testing. Someone even said to me this morning, well, A/B tests can be fast. We can do them in 2 days. And I go, I'm not sure an A/B test done in 2 days is really looking at as much of the longer term experience as we should. In an A/B test, we might be looking for a small change, and we want to see if people buy more often, or whatever metric we're trying to measure. We see that lift, we call the test a success, and we go more fully in on that winning design. But do we ever measure this in the longer term or across the longer end-to-end customer journey? The customer's experience doesn't stop when they check out or do that one thing you're hoping to do that you're measuring. There are actions, subtasks, and future tasks that can happen later. What if your winning A/B variant created higher value purchases, but led to more complaints, angry tweets, or returns? Is that variant still the winner? What if your winning variant saw a higher conversion, more people buying, but the customers coming through that variant were less likely to purchase again later? We can measure these, but we rarely do. We don't look at that longer term of the customer experience. I suggest that anything you measure be looked at over the longer customer journey arc. If your short-term metric winner has a negative ripple effect to a longer-term metric, we should be smart enough to be watching for that before we declare a variant the winner. So we talked about the dating site example, but now let's use another. Our potential customer is on our website to hopefully book a stay in our hotel. Let's imagine we work for a hotel. If people aren't brand loyal, maybe they found us from an online search and now they're on our site. Here's where we might measure bounce rate. If the homepage tells people right away that we're wrong for them, they will leave. This is an early failure. The first step toward the customer accomplishing their task will be, do we have any hotels with available rooms in this city on these dates? Our system can know how often someone enters a city where we have no nearby hotel. And our system knows how often we had hotels in the area, but they were sold out. We can track these metrics to see where we might open future hotels to meet demand. But for now, we can collect metrics on how often we couldn't give the user something they hoped to get from us. This might also explain site abandonment at this point, because this really is the first step toward potential customer success. They didn't leave the first page they saw. They did a search, and now we're showing them what we've got. If we have nothing for them or nothing that looks good to them, we've lost them. So, this is an early point where success from the shopper's perspective is make or break, which means it's a key area to focus our product strategy. How amazing and clear did we make these search results? Did we create maps, sorts, filters, and other things that might match the user and the criteria they're looking for in a hotel room? If a hotel looks interesting to our visitor, they might click to see more about the hotel, or they might go straight to the page that shows room types and pricing. The visitor is considering if any of our options are a match to their deeper criteria. Remember that everywhere we show a price, we have options for how honest that price is. Our honesty and transparency are part of the customer experience and will be driven by our strategies and our company values. Did we show a full price with all of the taxes and fees included? Did we show a range of prices? Did we show the lowest price only? If the customer is logged in and they tend to pick a certain price level time after time, do we default to showing them that price level because we know their behaviors? For example, there's one hotel chain I book very often, and they typically offer me four types of pricing: full price with breakfast, a full price without breakfast, a discounted price that lets me cancel up to 5 days before, no breakfast, and a heavily discounted price that I cannot discount or get my money back on. I always book that third one, the discounted price with the 5 days of cancellation, no breakfast. Our product strategy might include to show me what I pick most often rather than a cheaper price I never pick because it's not really a price I'm ever going to pay. And eventually, we'll see company, customer, and business success when the visitor books the hotel room. We'll need to watch for cancellation rates since a customer who cancels might not be our customer at all. What else might be success from the perspective of the customer? We can measure time on task. Unless you have a hobby of browsing hotels and rooms for fun, you probably want to get this done efficiently and accurately, which also reminds us that we can measure how many error messages people might have seen. People might be converting, but was it a struggle? Did our system catch them making mistakes? Product strategy should include the research that would help us understand where and why people make mistakes, and of course, their criteria for selecting hotels, so we can design or redesign our system to work better for customers. Errors. So, wrapping up and then taking questions, there are seemingly endless KPIs and metrics that we can monitor. I know this font's hard to read, but that's kind of my point. You can Google for common KPIs, and there's just zillions of them that we can use to try to monitor goals that the business hopes to achieve. These are things users and customers don't care about at all, but they can color the experience that potential and current customers have. Will the company push you to do something you didn't want to do just so their metrics can look better? That's a great question that is answered by our company values and how ethical our decisions are, plus how customer-centric we are. When customers are just pawns on our chessboard, then we will push, nudge, and be as tricky as possible, using any legal way we can to achieve our goals. But what about our customers? When we talk about metrics related to them, you mostly hear about running a survey to ask people how happy they are with us, or how easy they thought something was, or how likely they are to recommend us. But make sure you understand your users and their common tasks to find the moments where it makes sense to measure something that looks like success to them. It can't just be business KPIs. Can't say it enough. In closing, when creating product and service strategies that serve business goals, remember your customers' goals. Think about KPIs and metrics that the business wants, but think about ways that will match what customers want too. We have to find that balance. For example, we want a high retention rate. We want loyalty. We want them to stay with us longer. We should make that happen because we have great product, services, and pricing. Our value proposition is clear and we follow through on our promises. We should not create higher retention rates through trickery, deceptive design, or making leaving difficult or impossible. Some might say that great product outcomes lead to a change in customer behavior. Possibly. But let's make sure that any behavior change is because we have great products and services that are easy to learn and use. Let's not create behavior change because we manipulated people, used deceptive design, or forced or nudged people to do something they didn't want to do. That can produce results, and it might sound like a good strategy to use, but will it create customer satisfaction? Create KPIs around customer success and satisfaction. It's the best and easiest way to create nearly every other KPI that you want. When you meet or exceed customers' expectations, you'll naturally make the sale, which is your conversion rate. You'll earn their loyalty, which will boost your customer lifetime and your customer lifetime value. Happy customers are likely to grow with you, which means purchasing more often, buying more licenses, or moving into other products and services that you offer. And the business will have the revenue it's looking for. Customer satisfaction should be at the core of every project's strategy. Measure it, act on it. Even if you have an NPS of 100, there's always something that you can improve. Oops, I forgot to load up those words. Sorry about that. Words. And that is it for my slide. Check out my book, Customers Know You Suck, if you're not familiar with it. Check out deltacx.com, which will lead you to our community and our consulting and lots of other stuff. And I will stop sharing and we'll take a look at the questions that may have come in. I see some familiar peeps now that I'm looking back at the screen. Let's see, Q&A. It's Francisco. Ciao, ciao. Are there any opposite KPIs standards, or do I need to see the context to discover them? It's usually context. This is a great one because let's say, for example, time on the site. If people want to be efficient, time on the site is a bad KPI, or for measuring it, we want it to be low. If we are an entertainment site, time wasting site, watching videos site, maybe time on site is good because we want to see people doing more of something that we hope is entertaining and positive to them. So KPIs definitely have to be looked at in terms of context and in terms of both what the business is hoping to achieve, because sometimes, may I say, that's some shady bullshit, and also what the customer is trying to achieve. And that's why I'm saying, is the customer trying to be efficient? Because in that case, lower time on site. Is the customer looking to waste time, spend time, relax, watch videos? Okay, higher time on site is okay. So thank you for that. Question answered. We've got a little more time. I'm trying to keep these around 25 minutes. We're at about 28. But if anybody has any other questions, please let me know. While we wait, I just want to remind everybody to check out our coming webinars. I am writing all of these just for all y'all. I've got a few slides I can reuse, but I'm writing them just for you. Check out cxcc.to/events for ones that are coming. We're taking next week off because I'll be speaking at UX Austria in Vienna. Hi, Anne. I'll answer that in a moment. Our next one will be September 20, 2 weeks from today, live on Google Meet. And it's going to be one that some of you will find a little weird for me, but I'm going to tell you how to make design sprints better. I know a few of you just fell out of your chair. I'm not a fan of design sprints, but I'm often asked, we're doing them anyway. I can't stop them. How do we make them better? So my thought is, if you're at a company that is stuck doing design sprints, let's talk about how we can make them better. So that's coming on the 20th. Let me just run through a couple of more. Oh, 27th is service design with, I'm going to pronounce it. Y'all know I'm so bad at Portuguese. Ricardo Martin. Do you pronounce an S on the end? Is it silent? Is this French? I don't know. But he's awesome, and he teaches at SCAD in service design. So we're going to talk service design. Yeah, there's lots of them coming up. I don't have to read to you. You will go find them. Let's see what Anne's question was. I know this guy. Yeah, and more people should. Okay, we've got a question from Karen and then Anne. Karen says, how do we handle situations where KPIs are not meeting their targets? Yeah, that's pretty common. That's where we say, hey, this failed, or we have a small or large failure or a problem. If we set out a KPI and it's not meeting its target, I suggest a couple of things. First of all, I suggest taking the time to figure out what went wrong. That in itself would be a little polemic. I have to admit, I forget what polemic means. Somebody help me. Let's see. Definition. I know it's the same in all of the Romance languages. Polemic. Yes, a strong critical attack or controversial opinion. Yes, but we're not necessarily asking him those. We're just going to have him talk about service design. I'm not going to ask him if he likes design thinking. Thank you, Ana Lucia. I always forget how that works. Okay, so if we are not meeting, if our KPIs are not meeting targets, first of all, we should be taking the time to look at what happened. Very often companies don't, and they just say, well, look, let's go with another idea or another guess, another layer of the guessing lasagna, and just try again. But I think it would be important for us to do at least a little digging of what went wrong. Did we have a reasonable KPI? Sometimes the KPI is unreasonable. Should we be discussing that KPI or fighting it? Why didn't we meet it? I've seen ones that were very unreasonable and the company didn't know what to do because they'd been using it for so long. So I think the most important thing we can do is figure out why. And for those of you who love Lean or Lean Six Sigma, Lean is all about finding out why. Why did we do something wasteful? Why did we do, it's called Lean because we're cutting off the fat. We're cutting off the waste, though the fat is delicious, but not in the business context. So what did we do that didn't go right? Was it our process? Was it our timing? Was it our budget? There must be something else that we need to figure out. So again, a lot of teams right now don't want to stop to figure out why the KPI wasn't met. I think it's important to push for that. It might not be a 6-week generative research study, but hopefully we can do some digging. Anne says, what's the best way to tell the higher ups their metrics are bad news? I've done that. I wouldn't say it requires drinking, and I'm having black cherry lemonade, so I'm on the no alcohol plan. Your experience may vary. Typically, I have to tell these people these things fairly bluntly. Typically, that's my style. Yours might be different, but typically, I have to say, okay, you thought that we wanted to point all of our resources and efforts on getting people to click this button more, but our product teams, especially in this case, in the case when I did this, the product managers and the UX people knew it was the wrong KPI, but they could not fight an executive who wanted it. And then when we got the higher executive to say, okay, it's not really the best KPI, but we're not really going to be able to measure a KPI, a better KPI for a year or two from now. So we'll keep this one for now. I said, that's not the right decision. I said, yes, I understand that the new systems you're working on that will come out in a year or two will be a better way to measure the better KPI, but we can start somewhere else. That we don't have to start by continuing to push the wrong KPI. So, and the best way to go, as always, is anything that proves this. You don't want to go to a leader or executive and go, hey, your KPI sucks. It's really bad. We all hate it. You know, you can't come off polemic. You can't come off as just, controversial or angry to be contrary. You can't come off as emotional. It doesn't fly in business. So typically I'm trying to prove to people, you've focused on this KPI. We're now so over-focused on it that here are the things that are suffering. We're not making fixes to the product because we've focused all of our teams on making people click the button more. We're getting lower app ratings because we took people off the app because we wanted to put more teams on making people click this button more. Yeah, and these were some of the things this company was really doing. And so that's where a lot of these slides came from, was working with companies where on the surface, the KPI didn't look that bad, but when I saw how nearly every team at the company was told, your purpose in life is to raise this number for our company, right, Francisco? And that's where we have to start to explain to people how this manifests in the work. We start doing things that are unethical, or questionable. We do things that run against our company values. Did we say our company is honest and transparent and we care about our users? We have empathy. Then I have to find a way to say to people, this doesn't match our company values, and here's how. And it can't just be my opinion, and it can't just be an accusation. Yes. Anne is totally right when she says this is like bringing evidence in a court case. Now, that is my style, and that might not be your style, and that's totally fine. Some of you already know. Yeah, Jude says show, don't tell. Exactly. And don't make it about my opinion. But I'm always bringing the evidence in a court case because I was raised by an entire family of lawyers. All of my blood family were lawyers except for my biological mother, who was a math teacher. So my world was lawyers. And can you bring a good case? And can you prove it without your opinions? And I remember being 21 and saying to my grandfather, the company I work at is losing money. He goes, how do you know? I spent 45 minutes telling him. And at the end, and he was a bit of a ball breaker, as we say, at the end, he goes, fine, I won't invest. I said, you weren't going to invest. You have no money. But he challenged me, and my family challenged me at every age to have evidence of the things. I remember saying, Grandpa, they're paying credit cards with credit cards. Americans will know what I mean. So yes, ultimately, if anybody is familiar with my style, whether it's my talks, my books, my writing, my webinars, you just talking to me, my goal is always, what can I say that is factual, not my emotions, not my feelings, and is hard to disagree with? I'm always looking for the thing that's hard to disagree with. Like, hi, here's 2 slides on how we are breaking our own company values by having made these decisions. It would be really hard for someone to go, no, we're following our company values. So that's usually my tactic is do I have such good evidence and information that I can show something that is very hard to disagree with so that it doesn't become an opinion fight. Once it becomes an opinion fight, we've all lost. Hi, Catherine. Good to see you here. Catherine says sometimes data or evidence aren't available. That's right. And that's why sometimes when I'm at companies, I'm doing a lot of digging before I present anything. I'm going to talk to customer support. I'm going to talk to sales. I'm going to talk to some product managers. I'm going to ask the UX team, what's going on? I'm going to find the person who's responsible for the app and maybe indirectly the app reviews, and find that product leader and say, what is going on in the app that we have all of these 1-star reviews in the last few months? I'm going to do a little bit of digging and see if I can find that data and evidence, even if that digging is 6 video calls with internal workers. Maybe I don't have time to spin up a big generative study with users. I can still track down stuff internally because you know what? People know things. Catherine says, my challenge at the moment is to sell my services. They say people are busy, not available for the interview. Yeah, absolutely. And a lot of people don't want to be sold or have that cold call. Someone on the call knows what I'm talking about. So you also have to take a look at, now, Catherine, this is a separate question than what today's webinar is about, but for you, I would say you have to take a look at the value proposition you're presenting. And it's very hard to go to someone and say, you suck, your website's bad, my team can make it better. I think, that's like telling someone their baby's ugly. I'm not saying you're doing that, but we just have to be careful of any pitch or sales service suggestion that sounds like, hi, your baby's ugly, but I can make it better. Francisco says it's not only a matter of availability of evidence, sometimes it's a matter of cultural belief. Yes, and that's why I try to get the information from the people who other people are likely to believe. Like, hey, I went to a customer service manager of managers and I got data from the customer support center, and this tells us that we get X% of calls about this button or this wacky thing we're doing. I went to our sales team and they said they're having a harder time selling because of this thing. So I try to make sure that, again, it is believable evidence. It's not wonky stuff. I saw a few people at some companies that I've been at really manipulate data. They found like, here's some percentages of what our competitors are doing. And if we add these numbers to each other, I'm like, no, that's not how you do this. You've manipulated that. I caught you. I try to make sure there isn't anybody who can fight me. I will say that at one of my, usually at every job I'm in, I have someone who's against me, at least one, but usually one or two strong, high-level people who are against me because they know I'm going to bring change that they don't want. So they do everything they can to make me look bad, to make me look unreliable, to make me look like I can't be believed. Now, of course, I was set up for this from birth by having biological family who were shitty, malignant narcissists. So I've been surrounded by liars my whole life, and I know how to play that game, which they assume I won't know. So I usually can win that one, but it's very tough to win against manipulators and malignant narcissists. But there was one time where I gave a presentation to high-level leaders and execs, and the malignant narcissist in the group unmuted and said, "You're being antagonistic." So he's trying to make me look bad for the information that I brought. So what did I say? I said, "You are welcome to apply any adjective you would like to me, but everything in the report I just showed you came from all of you. I interviewed all of you, and these are the things you said about what's going wrong in this company. Do any of you recognize your own quotes?" And the antagonist said, "Yes, I recognize my quote. I said our ability to innovate was very vanilla." I said, "I'm not being antagonistic. I'm holding up a mirror, but I know this was tough to hear. The problem is that it's true." So yeah, I don't end up everybody's friend. This type of work is not going to be for everybody. This type of work is for Anne and Karen and a few others of you that I've been getting to know. Melanie, just looking at some faces out there. I don't know all of you, so I can't say who else. Um, but definitely those people that I've gotten to know well enough to know they can do this. That's why it's important, those diagnostic interviews with stakeholders. Yeah, a lot of people say, oh, stakeholder interviews, you make sure you're doing them. I'm often doing them to learn more about how those people are judged. How do they define success in a project or a set of projects? How do their managers see them? What can happen below them that sets them up for success or makes them look good? What's going right or wrong in their world? But that's usually me coming in as a larger consultant to a business rather than a UX researcher. You know, if I'm a UX researcher, I've just got to do my work, and that's cool too. But if I'm coming in as a larger change agent or business consultant, the company I worked at last year, where I came in with that role as a 6-month contract, I interviewed 75 people, the entire UX team, nearly the entire product team, product leaders, and a whole bunch of C-level executives from 2 countries. I interviewed 75 people, and to get them to tell me the truth, I told them I wouldn't record it. Some of you who've seen some of my old videos know that I type at the speed that people speak. So even though I said I'm not going to record these, I typed nearly everything they said word for word. So I just said, yeah, if you hear some typing in the background, I'm just taking some notes. Lots of people. Yeah, and not everybody has to do 75 interviews to get the evidence that will help them push something or suggest something or fight for something. Sometimes there's 3 people, 5 people that are great to talk to. But for this company, because it was a large international $1 billion company, it was important to talk to a lot of different people that were overseeing different functions in some of the different countries. Okay, we are just at time. So thanks to everybody who dropped by for at least a short version on metrics and strategy. Again, we can't cover everything about metrics. We can't cover everything about strategy in 45 minutes, but hopefully I've given you some interesting things to think about, some critical thinking to put back in your pocket. And again, thank you for all the emojis. Yeah, so we're exploding now. This will be available to patrons at least the $1 level, hopefully later today. Then live on YouTube for everybody in about 2 weeks. And let's see, what else can I tell you? That's it. So I'm going to push the stop recording button, and I hope to see everybody in the next one. So thanks again.